Hi, it's Bumble. Welcome back to my channel. I'm continuing with my Alien series reviews. So this is a review if I had just been smart, like 2 months back, I wouldn't have had to do this review again, because I made a review when I originally saw this movie and it was on my old channel, and it was like a pretty long review anyway, or not really a review. None of these are really reviews. They're more of my thoughts, that's why I call them my thoughts, because I just ramble the whole time, not really reviewing properly. I didn't have the video saved. I usually don't save my movie reviews. I've saved some of my game videos, but yeah, I'm doing this again. But that's okay, because I'm technically watching these in the right order now. You know how I said I watched Alien and I continued from there, and then the last one I watched was Covenant, and it's supposed to be like Prometheus and Covenant first. So then I've just been looping around where I had watched those two, and I rewatched the original Alien. And then I was like, I like Romulus enough, I'll rewatch it again. And now I'm debating if I want to even rewatch Aliens. I will say, I will not rewatch Alien 3 because I don't like that one. I was okay with 4, I wouldn't mind rewatching it again. And Aliens I like. I feel like I think I remember enough about Aliens and with Alien 3 though that I probably would just make a review of the two of those without rewatching. I feel like that's gonna save me time. I'm in a bit of a time crunch recording these in terms of like the number of days I have and stuff, because then I'll be gone for like a month and I'm not gonna remember anything. Romulus I rewatched, except until I got to the point when before they have to fight the final alien, the one that's like humanoid and really creepy. What kind of scares me about it though, and no offense to the guy, when I originally watched, I just assumed it was like a CGI creature, and then I was reading an article while I was looking for this thumbnail image, and nope, it's just like a guy that's like that tall, who's in like the makeup and everything, and it's just like, oh, that kind of feel, I don't know, it's not like I'd ever meet this person or I'm afraid of tall people, but that kind of makes it feel more like intimidating. And again, no offense to that guy, and I was like, I don't want to see the creature again, so I stopped the movie, and I had to eat dinner anyway, so the timing worked out. And then when I was finding this image, I got distracted because I was reading about the actor that plays Andy, because I noticed in like I've seen like one of his other movies, it's called Ridley, I also don't have my review for that one, where his eyes are always kind of squinty, and I wondered if he's just like that or if it was a condition, but I couldn't find anything. I was curious, and then I got really distracted. And okay, we're gonna do the review now. So this one is about a bunch of, because I'll just describe the plot briefly before my notes are in order. Like a bunch of 20-something-year-olds, and I actually like that the movie, like, in universe tries to justify that, because everyone else in the Alien movies looks like they're in like their 30s or older. Like they look like adults and not like people my age. I'm in like roughly like my mid-20s for reference, which feels so weird to say. Actually, I just turned like 24 like a week ago. I'm recording this in like mid-June. Anyway, it's that they're the children of these miners on this mining colony planet that's run by, of course, the Weyland-Yutani company, and they're trying to leave before they're sent into the mines, and it doesn't work out. They pretty much just don't have a future being on this planet. So it's like a group of friends, mostly. It's like they all sort of know each other, where they're either like, some of them are related, some of them are dating, whatever, and they have the main character's named Rain, and her brother is an android named Andy. Rain's not an android though. It's just he was kind of like adopted into the family and like reprogrammed by her dad to like help take care of Rain. Like literally his prime directive is like, do what's best for Rain. And also the dad programmed in a bunch of dad jokes, which ends up actually helping with the plot at the end, but I find that funny because he has a lot. The dad jokes surprisingly don't get annoying, even though none of them are funny. They're played off in like a very charming way. So it's just Rain and Andy growing up together and stuff, and they have Rain anyway has this group of like human friends. Andy is one of the only androids in this movie, and they want to take Andy with them to go investigate this like Wayland Yutani abandoned ship or whatever, and to see if they can get some like tech, to steal some tech and be able to leave. They want to go to this planet, I think called Yugara, if I remember right, where they'd actually be able to see the sun and shit and maybe have a future and stuff. So that's their goal. And then of course they get to the ship and everything goes wrong. Okay, I'll go with my notes. So the movie starts off, and I was still kind of confused by it, actually, of like these scientists, and they cut out this xenomorph from this like giant rock. Because this one, this is like the one movie I actually watched in the right order, where it's supposed to be Alien, and then Alien Romulus, and then Aliens. So I'm assuming that the xenomorph that they cut out of the giant rock in the beginning was the one that like Ripley blasted out into space in the first movie. But I don't know, because it's not the one that like the characters encounter. Or wait. No, I'm remembering now. Okay, because I'm dumb. They mention in the movie that it's like a space station science lab thing where they have all these like face huggers they're like frozen somewhere, and they have this lab where they made the black goo and stuff. I don't remember what it's officially called, but I recognize the liquid as the black goo from Prometheus and Covenant, and except they like bioengineered it or whatever. So they were doing that, and there's a xenomorph. They even show its like skeleton or whatever that like went around and killed everybody, and that's the reason the ship's abandoned, pretty much, except for the science officer. He's still there. He's just torn in half. I'm now that I'm like thinking back to it as I'm talking, I'm like, oh, maybe that's the xenomorph they cut out of the rock. But anyway, my original question I think still stands, if it's the one that got blasted out by Ripley in the original movie. I don't know. And then when they show the rock, like after they cut it out and in the shape of the xenomorph, there was this like ominous like choir music that reminded me the Monolith in 2001 A Space Odyssey has its own like theme music of the similar sounding music. Ominous choir is like the best way I can describe it, where it almost sounds a little scary, but it just sounds similar enough where I'm just like, oh, kind of giving the same vibes here. And then we meet our protagonist, where she has this dream where she's on a planet, and it's like a short thing, and then she wakes up and we don't see it again. She also doesn't fall asleep again for like the rest of the movie, I think. But I thought it was cool because she spends the movie, her and her friends, talking about this planet they want to go to, that they're gonna like escape the mining colony they're on, and they're gonna get to like live their lives and whatever. But it's nice we sort of got to see it. I mean, I don't know if that's what it actually looks like, because she says like, oh, I've seen it, dreamed in my dreams or whatever. But man, it sucks for these kids, where it's like the company even owns these like not just like the colonies they're setting up for humans in like the movie Aliens, but even like ones where people are having to mine and stuff, and they're still getting people killed. I mean, thankfully there's no like xenomorphs there or anything. Like for once, people are fine. And then Rain, our protagonist, she has to like pay to be able to leave, and then the woman at the desk is like, oh, there's like a shortage of workers, we actually have to extend your time with us for like another 5 to 6 years, you're gonna have to work in the mines, but the company thanks you for your service or whatever. And it's like, bruh. So it's like everyone's life there kind of sucks too, and they're not even in danger of like a xenomorph yet, because the main characters are all like orphans, like their parents died in the mines, or even like Rain's parents didn't even die in the mines. She mentioned it was like lung cancer from the mines or something. And then we get introduced to Andy, and I like how he's introduced by just telling bad jokes And it's kind of sweet. I mean, I didn't realize originally that like he probably grew up with Rain and stuff since she was a kid, but I noticed that he says this line about like, oh, you always found this one specific joke funny, and she's like, yeah, when I was 12. I know it's supposed to be a joke of like, oh yeah, I don't find this funny anymore or whatever, but I like that implies like they grew up together. And then that's when I finally started noticing about the little drinking bird that they have on like tables and stuff in these movies, because I hadn't paid attention to this. Was my third time watching this movie, by the way, just as like a reference. Like this is not a review of my first viewing, but I did notice more things, and having watched some of the other movies, I'm like, okay, I'm noticing more things now, connecting the dots of things plot wise. Yeah, the drinking bird, I didn't think, I was like, wait, I've seen that drinking bird before. And then I remember the previous night I had watched the original Alien, and then for some reason I remembered it in either Covenant or Prometheus, but I couldn't remember from where. And then I ended up on the like Aliens wiki or whatever. There's an article for this bird. I was like, is the drinking bird supposed to be symbolic of like anything? Is it just a prop that keeps showing up? It's just a prop that keeps showing up in all these movies, which I find really funny because it always looks like the same one except for the ones with the little like top hat. But I think that's cool. It's like a recurring gag. There's even a book about, I think, the first movie or something, and the cover of it has that little drinking bird, which is kind of funny because it's not like it's a plot significant bird or anything. It's always just kind of there. And then what else? There's a part when Rain and Andy, they're like walking around in the street, and there's a guy who's protesting about the company, and I'm like, cool, finally someone that's like against the company. I mean, I know Ripley ends up like being against the company and stuff to the point where she like dies for that, but it's nice to see like just other people that aren't really like characters protesting about it and stuff at this point. And I always like when the characters in this series, they talk about what they'll do when they're trying to get, you know how no one ever gets to their destination anywhere because everyone usually gets like killed by the aliens and stuff. But I like the little scenes like when we're trying to like get to know characters, when they usually the main characters, when they talk about like the things they're gonna do when they get to the planet. Like the whole thing in Covenant was like Daniels wanted to build a log cabin or something, and then Andy talks about he wanted to get a horse. I don't know why, I just find it funny thinking about it. He wanted to get a horse and he wanted to name it Randy, and then before he explained what the joke was, or I think it was like, actually, I don't know what the joke was because I usually think of combining people's names as that's usually like a shipping thing. And I was like, wait, no, it's a combination of their names. No. Because they're set up as like siblings. So that was kind of weird. But it was also kind of funny where I'm like, oh, he's like sort of naming a horse after. But that's cool. They wanted to get a horse. What else? I think it's interesting when I think of like the other android characters and stuff, because like they mention, I felt Andy's personality was like kind of confusing to me actually, or just the way he like functions and stuff, because he's supposed to be like this mining android and stuff, but he was like found by Rain's family in like a trash heap. I don't think they explain why he like gets abandoned by the company. I think it's because he's supposed to be like broken or a bit glitchy or whatever. Like he mentions about his motor functions being messed up and stuff, and then later in the movie he gets a different module from a different android and it like fixes his motor functions, and then from there his accent changes for some reason. I'm assuming it's because it's like the programming of a different android and stuff. It's from one that looks like Ash. I'll explain about that later. I was wondering if like the way his personality shifts and how he talks and everything, if that's like how he was originally supposed to be before he was broken. But that's like such a different shift in like, I mean, he was reprogrammed though to like protect Rain and stuff, so maybe the reprogramming just like completely changed his personality and how he sounds and whatever, but then he's still kind of like broken even after that. Like, he wasn't completely fixed or anything. I don't know. And then with the way he, like, acts and stuff, is it supposed to be basically, like, kind of like he has autism, even though he's an android? I was wondering about that. It's just, like, kind of the way he moves around and talks and stuff, and the way, like, Rain treats him. I was wondering if that was on purpose, because I was, like, thinking about, even, like, when I was watching with my mom, she was talking about that too, or, like, wondering about that too. And she's someone, my mom, before she retired, was a speech therapist who worked with, like, autistic kids and stuff. I don't know, I thought that was interesting, that was, like, a cool choice to do. And you don't know that he's an android original. I mean, I don't know. I mentioned about is it, like, autistic android coding, because I don't know if that was supposed to be something before he's actually, like, physically revealed to be an android with, like, the white blood and everything, if, like, that was supposed to be a sign that he was possibly an android, which feels kind of messed up, actually, if it is. I don't know. But yeah, I was just wondering about that. And then he gets attacked at one point when Rain's gone, and that part sucked too. Like, it's, like, a very short scene, and I thought, like, man, we gotta have, like, robot racism in every movie and stuff. I mean, maybe it's because there is someone, as I had mentioned, that was, like, on that same street that was talking about, like, not wanting to work for Wayland. So maybe, you know, I'm assuming all the androids in this universe are made by Wayland-Yutani, so maybe that's part of the other reason people don't like the androids in this universe. I'm just thinking about that too. I hadn't thought about that with, like, the other movies. Right now I'm thinking, like, oh, maybe that's why no one likes androids, because a lot of people hate the company. Like, that's fair, but it's, like, not all of them seem to be loyal to the company and, like, their mission of trying to get xenomorphs. There's some that we see that, like, help humans and stuff, so I don't know. I kind of do wish, like, I know Andy has to be revealed at the very beginning of the movie to be an android, because then it goes to the conversation of, like, oh, we need to bring Andy on the ship with us to, like, get it to function and stuff. Like, the movie can't work without, like, knowing he's an android and stuff. But he's so, like, I feel like he's so more human-like than some of the other androids in the other movies, or especially the ones early on, that, like, I think it would have been kind of cool if we did believe for most of the movie that he was, like, Rain's, like, human brother, and then having him revealed to be an android or something. I feel like that could have worked, because, like, he seems more, like, as I mentioned, more human than some of the other ones we had seen. That, like, I went, you know, if they didn't do the, like, the robotic reveal and stuff, like, early on with him, when he gets attacked, he, like, bleeds a little bit. It's like, once you see the white blood, you always know, like, okay, that character's an android. I think that would have been a cool story thing. Or maybe if it was, like, if only Rain knew and not the others. Like, the potential was there. What else? And then we get introduced to the other characters. I like them. I think that's part of the reason you'll hear me compare this movie with the original Alien at the end of this, like, little review or whatever. I think these characters I liked more. I feel like we had more, I don't want to say had more time with them, but, like, I don't know, individually maybe had some of their, like, more screen time, or just kind of stuck out to me more. Like, there's this girl named Kay, and she's really nice, and she's asleep for a lot of the movie, and is also pregnant, and that ended up being way more plot important than I expected. I kept feeling bad for her throughout the whole movie, because bad things just kept happening to her the whole time. And there's a guy named Tyler, and he, I don't know what his relationship to Rain is. Not, like, literally related, but I was wondering, I'm like, did they previously used to date or something? Or, because they seemed, like, pretty chummy, and after some stuff goes on with Andy, Tyler kind of ends up being like Rain's companion for like the rest of the movie. And then there's his cousin, who I think his name is like Bjorn. It's like with the J. I'm not gonna probably pronounce that right. And he's an asshole. That's the way I remember his character. I'm like, oh, it's like that asshole from Alien Romulus. Like, they do try to justify it a little bit. Like, he's kind of mean in general, but he's like really mean to Andy, and they explain it as, I think it's like his mom was in the mines and an android made the decision on who to save or how many to save, and she died in there, so he like hates all the androids or whatever. Yeah, and then there's Navarro, who's like the pilot, who I thought seemed pretty cool, and then she like gets killed by a face hugger almost immediately. Or no, wait, no, it like chest bursts out of her after like laying the baby or whatever, so she's like the first kill, to the point where I barely just realized when I was looking for the posters. I was like, who is that on the poster? And I realized that's her, because she has like a shaved head. That is a really cool poster, I think, of just having the face hugger on there and everything, and we can't see who the person is, rather than having like the fully grown xenomorph or anything, or having like the egg or whatever. And just the red lighting, I think, works really well. It's actually only one place in the entire movie that has like red lighting like that, but it's like one of the most tense scenes at the very beginning, so like, and kind of also where all the, you know, people start getting attacked and stuff, so I think it's pretty cool. What else? And then the characters, I think that's all the characters. For once, I think I actually remembered everyone, which is good, because normally I forget, even though there's characters throughout the movies that I like. And then they talk about, oh, there's this Wayland ship we gotta break into, it's just drifting out there. And I thought, no, that's like too sus. I mean, later we do see that there's aliens in there and stuff, but like with the way the company is so protective about everything and what they want to do with aliens, it's like, come on, they're not gonna just leave that hanging around. And it's their research station, but it's like the kids don't know and stuff. Oh, I wanted to mention about something really quick before I forget. I might forget again, mention it in the Aliens review. I remembered in I think it was my original Alien review, I said something of like, how does the company know about this planet? Do we ever see it again? I was looking on the Alien subreddit. I stayed up like way too late doing that. And I read, and I didn't realize it watching Aliens, that like the planet they go to for that colony where everyone dies and the xenomorphs are already there, I think if I remember right, it's supposed to be like the original planet that like Ripley and the crew goes to in the first movie. I feel like that makes a lot more sense of like, oh yeah, the aliens were already there and stuff. I just wanted to mention that because I felt like I was gonna forget about it. And I also saw there's like so much, I'm like kind of sidetracking a bit, but it's important, there's so much side media, because I know I've been asking for like the last 2 reviews, like not literally for you to answer their what are those questions called? I don't remember. Anyway, I've been asking all these questions about Wondering Stuff and about loose ends, and it's like, oh, okay, there are like a bunch of comics and books and other things and so much more stuff besides the movies, and even videos about characters and whatever, and there's video games, because I was gonna save that for the Aliens review, but I noticed Ripley is like she is supposed to care about Newt, but is naturally just seems very maternal, even with like the cat in the first movie and stuff, and I'm like, that feels very specific. And I remembered reading about like she had a daughter, and the daughter dies while she's in space, and I wondered about that. Apparently one of the video games, the one that I was debating on playing, her daughter's the main character. So there's stuff like that where it's like there's things that exist that probably answer like some of my questions. So if I'm like asking questions about wondering things or whatever, if I go look for the the other media, I'll probably find it, so you can just ignore me on that. I'll still probably ask stuff anyway. It's not things directly to you guys or whatever, it's more just me like wondering things. Okay, Andy, at a later point in the movie, he says the line from Aliens of like, "Get away from her, you bitch," which is a cool moment, but I got some comments on that later. And then I realized as I was watching, I was like, he doesn't usually curse. I wondered like why he's suddenly saying that. Also, since this movie chronologically comes first and he's never met Ripley, it's not like that's like her key phrase, but it's an important line. I was like, where does he learn the word bitch from? But there's someone who says early on when they're about to leave to go to the Romulus ship or whatever, that says something like, "That's how it's done, bitch," and like lightly punches him in the shoulder or whatever. And now I'm just like, oh, okay, that's probably what. We get some shots of the sun and the planet rings. Why did I assume it was like Jupiter? So I guess because when I see a planet with the rings, it was a really cool shot of seeing that. There's a lot of like really pretty space shots. I know I've been saying that, but I guess that's because I've been watching the newer-ish movies. I mean, I don't know, like Covenant's it's from like 2017, so that's like kind of oldish now, and even more so Prometheus. But like, the movies that aren't from like the 70s or 80s, actually no, I think 4 actually had some kind of bad effects too, if I remember right. Movies from like the 2000s onwards, I should clarify, have good effects for this series. And it's, even though there's only been like 3 movies, isn't that crazy? It goes from like 1997 and then the next one is like 2012, I think. Like, wow, it's a big old gap. But yeah, this movie looks pretty. That's the last time you're gonna hear me say that about the space shots and stuff for the next couple reviews. What else? And then it's also sad knowing that Andy isn't, how he said he was like hyped. He's hyped to go to this planet they're trying to get to Vivaga. And it's kind of sad already knowing like the second viewing of the movie of like he's not allowed to go. I mean, he does eventually get to go, but like before that, like while the story is taking place, he's not allowed to go. Like I know it's because he's an android, but he's like so hyped, and then finding out he can't go, he gets so disappointed. Actually, I have notes about that later, so I can't talk about that. Anyway, let's see. Rain's friendship with Andy is pretty sweet. I noticed that they kind of hold hands when they're scared, or she like gives them a goodbye hug when he has to leave the group. Like, besides being reprogrammed to like do what's best for Rain, it sounds like he cares about her enough that he probably would just do it anyway. And it's like vice versa, because Rain like genuinely cares for him, and it feels more so like than anyone else with the synthetic. But I mean, I guess it makes sense because like normally it's like there's people on a mission, there's a synthetic that's on board that no one really knows or anything, and then here it's like these two grew up together, so of course they're gonna care about each other. Like, she's worried about him the whole movie, so then it actually feels earned when he like starts acting differently and she seems like super hurt about it and stuff. And Andy just sounds like he wants to be included with the group. Like, there's a couple times and he seems like he's just happy to be there and hanging out and stuff. Like, there's a part early on, I think Tyler tells him a dad joke or something, and Andy like smiles about it or whatever. And just the character's dialogue is also pretty nice. Like, I hate Bjorn, but like his banter with his cousin is like actually kind of funny. And I like that since they're supposed to be like young adults, it kind of explains some of their like dumber decisions. Not completely, of course, but like I think it mostly explains their feeling of like being so determined not to leave each other behind. I mean, it's like that in some of the other movies too. I mean, that's usually what happens, right? Where someone, it like begs to not leave someone else behind that's like clearly infected, and they're like, this person's sick, we got to get them to the cryo bed now, and then they're usually either not allowed to, or something happens and then the chest burster thing, and then everyone's screwed. But just the way that the characters in this one, even like it's usually like someone is locked behind a door and the group is on the other side or something like that, just keeps happening in this movie. And the group, they're all very close to each other anyway, but just the way they're like, no, we can't leave this person behind and stuff, just reminds me of like, yeah, that's probably how I'd be like with my friends or like people my age too. Like, I can't imagine some of the other characters, you know how they're like a lot older and stuff, kind of acting like that determined to save people. I feel like this movie matches like the closest vibe to Alien in that, like, having, and I'll talk about more when I compare them at the end, like it's the only other one that I feel like has the old looking tech in terms of like newer made movies. I think that was my problem with like with Covenant, was like, yeah, I know it's a movie made in like 2017 or whatever, so like the tech is gonna look better than like it did in the 70s, but since it's supposed to take place before Alien, like, it looks super futuristic in general, but I'm like, it's supposed to take place before the original Alien, the tech should probably look like shit. Yeah, what else? And then, let's see, they reveal about Kay being pregnant. I know she's responsible and she doesn't want the group to know that she's pregnant, but I feel like if she's pregnant, should she just not even just about like being there and like going with them to, and the xenomorph shit happening, but like, should she even be in space? Would being in space like mess up anything with your pregnancy though? Like, I know that she kind of doesn't have a choice because it's like the whole group is planning to leave and stuff, and otherwise she'd probably have to go work in the mines, and that's probably like instant death or whatever. But that was kind of interesting. And then something that finally clicked with me is there's this painting they see early on. Well, there's two things that the camera kind of lingers on at one point, of like the Romulus and Romulus, like the wolf statue that I only know from Animal Crossing that the title is from, which I'm still trying, it did not click with me on the significance of that. Though what is interesting is at one point we see that on a door that has the Weyland-Yutani logo, but the door opens in half, and like one half of the wolf goes to with like the Weyland sign and one half goes with the Yutani sign. I wondered if that was supposed to mean anything. But then there's also this baby, or there's this painting or whatever of like a war or something, and the camera focuses on one part of the painting where it's a baby on top of a mountain of corpses and it's suckling from like a corpse. And I realized, I'm like, oh, I know what that's foreshadowing for. Oh no. And I thought that was pretty clever. And then there's a whole section where Bjorn's like really mean to Andy, and I'm like, oh, it's always hard to watch. Like, some examples is there's a part where Andy's telling him dad jokes, and he says to Andy, like, can you just please turn yourself off or whatever? And Andy's like, oh, I knew you were nervous and I wanted to like try to calm you to help like make you feel better. And it's like he's just trying his best. And then he's the one that explains to Andy about like, yeah, I'm never gonna see you again, you're not going to this planet. And Andy's like, wait, what? Because Rain didn't tell him. And it is explained of like, if it's not a Weyland-Yutani planet, then androids can't go, which is why I was wondering earlier, I was like, are all the androids made by that company or something? I mean, I don't know why I assumed that they own like every planet or what. I guess because they're just a constant force in like every single one of these movies except for the fourth one. I mean, like Alien Resurrection or whatever it's called. But that did feel very specific. Like, they mentioned the planet was already terraformed and stuff, and I'm like, okay, what other company besides the company is like out there doing stuff with planet? Like, who's in charge of this planet and why do they specifically like not want androids to go? That feels kind of weird. And then they mention about like, oh, if Andy stays behind on like the mining colony planet, he gets like decommissioned by the company again. And it's like, oh, so they don't even like reuse androids for like spare parts or anything, or because I don't think it's that he's like a super old model, because they mention about like these different colonies failing at some point. I don't know, it was kind of confusing. And then we have that term of like I prefer the term, I know that it's like usually like references and stuff in this movie, but when I think about it chronologically and how often certain phrases pop up in like exact words by characters, like they have the line about you have my sympathies or whatever that gets said at a certain point, and then the bitch quote, and then I prefer the term artificial person myself. And then the scene where they tell Andy that they gotta leave him behind, like it does kind of suck for him originally, where it's like they're just using him to get in the ship, like they can't do it without him, but then they have to leave him there and stuff. And Andy's just like, oh, that's fine as long as it's good for Rain, but like you can see the pain in his eyes and stuff. And then to kind of throw salt in the wound, one of the characters talking to Rain is like, oh yeah, it's fine, like Andy isn't real, like dude, he still has feelings and is like very clearly excited to go. And then it's kind of funny because then there's a part like right after that where Andy saves Bjorn from like falling into a hole, and like with the way the camera is, you think like, oh, is he finally like getting pissed about like being left behind and stuff. And then Bjorn has the balls to talk about like using a cattle prod or like the zappy ones or whatever to like potentially fry synthetics, or like there's another android character named Rook who is like supposed to be the same model as Ash, and he's like, phew, it's only a synthetic, when they like find half of his corpse, and it's like, bro, yeah, like if Andy wasn't programmed to like be loyal to Rain, or just like wasn't naturally a nice guy, I feel like without getting any like Rook intervening and like messing with his programming or whatever, I would have just expected Andy to like snap for being left behind, like actually try to purposely let the crew get killed by the xenomorphs or something. And then we get the scene in the red room, and the lighting in there, even though it's just like it's red, you know, it just makes it like hype it up and everything. And it's one of my favorite scenes in the movie because there's like these little face huggers that are like swimming around in there and stuff, and then they can't leave the room and they're forced to change Andy's module. I mean, they haven't even met Rook at that point, they just take something out of him and put it into Andy to be able to leave the room, and then from there he's able to open all the doors and whatever, but it comes at the sacrifice of his personality. And then when Rain takes the module, it was kind of a jump scare, and I didn't even remember it, or kind of, I don't know, where like Rook, he's like laying on the floor and he's like cut in half Bishop style and everything. Why does everyone in the series, like the androids, they either get like cut in half or like decapitated so often? Because they're all shown to be like stronger than humans, like usually in like fights or whatever, but then they're able to be like cut in half and whatever like so easily. When she takes the module, he like kind of pops his head up and then screams at her for some reason. Even the subtitle said something like synthetic screech, and it's like she hasn't done anything yet, and it's like a little intimidating, like it's like inhuman screaming or whatever. And then I was also wondering like how old of a model is Andy supposed to be, where it's like he has this thing and it's like we only ever see it with him, where he like freezes in place if he's like damaged or something, where he like falls on the floor and kind of shudders a little bit. But you can use the same modules as Rook, who's like the same model as Ash, which I'm assuming it's like maybe they just have one model for like scientific officers at that point or something. Maybe they're like the same generation or whatever. Because the movie, I know I've been praising the effects and everything's looked so pretty, but like effect wise, the thing that just ruins it for me is they do that thing where they make someone look like an actor that's passed away. Like they have, like, Rook is supposed to look like Ash. I mean, I'm not actually sure why they needed that consistency anyway. Like, I get it for other movies if it's supposed to be the same character. Like, I know they did that with Princess Leia in Star Wars because it was for, I think it was for Rogue One, or like one of the ones that's like, yeah, it was, I think it was Rogue One. And like, I get like plot wise they needed that scene and stuff and she had to look younger, but like then the AI looked kind of weird. I mean, actually, I don't think on her, I'm trying to remember if it was that movie or a different one where they did like the de-aging thing and I actually like couldn't really tell. Which I was watching a video on that a while ago, and it's kind of funny where the actors that they're putting the dots on for these like de-aging stuff are people that like already look pretty dang close to the original actors, like a younger version already, and then they just refuse to just let them play those characters and do like the dot on the face thing, and it's like, why? But anyway, the AI, it looks weird. It looks like one of those like internet deep fakes. Like the voice sounds fine, which I was wondering about. Like, I don't remember, even though I watched the original Alien like a couple days ago, or no, it might have been yesterday, I don't remember, like if they got someone that sounds similar enough to the original actor, because I could tell there was enough dialogue where it's like they weren't reusing like old lines or anything. Or maybe with AI, I know it's sometimes kind of easier when it's like replicating a person's voice, but the face was weird. It's like he has this one big forehead wrinkle that I don't think the wrinkle on the actor, like I remember he had some like forehead wrinkles because he looked a bit older than everyone else originally, but like it wasn't like one giant wrinkle or like that pronounced. And then the rest of the face, especially around like the eyes and mouth, was like really smooth. Like it didn't look like there was pores or anything, and just the way when he was talking, it just looked kind of creepy. So I was wondering, like, that's why I was thinking, I'm like, do the science officer models at that point all have to look the same? Is there like a reason he has to look identical, or could they just not have had like a different science officer or something? I don't know, but that's one of the things that was like a big bummer when I was watching the movie, and I always forget about it until it happens. And it's just like, oh, like I get that the character needs to be there, of like that's how they end up changing Andy's like programming and stuff, which affects like how some of the people die. He's got to explain like the backstory of the ship and stuff. Like I get why that science officer character needs to be there. I just don't understand the decisions they make. And then once Andy gets like affected by the module, it's kind of sad where like he starts losing his personality, but it happens kind of slowly, where before he gets his new directive of like do what's best for the company or whatever, he says how he thinks he's like a burden to Rain, and he's like, I can finally help you. Like, even though at that point he's following Rook's advice on like taking the hardest path to help the humans or whatever, and like losing his personality, he's like still trying to help Rain until he gets the new direct. No, he's actually trying to help everyone the entire movie. It's just the way he's doing it, it shifts from like trying to make sure everyone's all good and whatever, and then goes to like, I'm gonna tell you what to do, but I'm gonna go through these doors and close things and make these decisions so fast you can't actually keep up. What else? Detention. Nope. No, wait. The aliens themselves in this movie don't feel as threatening as like the main threat to me as they usually are. I feel like the tension as I'm watching comes more from like the crew being separated from each other and like hearing them scream, and like the characters themselves of like, is this person gonna make it? Are they all gonna end up together? I don't know. I thought that was kind of interesting, because like, I don't, even though there's characters I like in the other movies, as I've been mentioning and stuff, I don't really feel that type of tension as much of needing everyone to survive, and the aliens feel kind of scarier. I mean, there are definitely some scary aliens in this one, like the alien thing that they fight at the end is very scary to me originally when I watched this movie. Now not as much, but like I still don't like looking at it, because it's basically like a human but with like really weird proportions that are just like, oh. And then it's funny watching Andy, because I feel like with him almost leaving people behind or ditching Kay, you would think like the group would try to kill him or something, but it's like he's not trying to kill them on purpose or anything, and he is helping them to survive. Like, they do need him, and he becomes like group leader once he gets like smarter and stuff. But it's just, I don't know. It's complicated. It gets to a point where like all they can do is beg for Annie to cooperate, and like Kay is so nice that like you want her to live, and then she doesn't. There's also a part where she takes a pretty long fall and her stomach directly hits a pipe. I was surprised that didn't affect the baby. I mean, the baby gets affected by some stuff later on, but that's through like some unnatural black goo means. I'm curious, like, if that didn't happen, would the baby have been okay? Because she gets, like, the camera focuses that she gets like directly hit in the stomach and then falls. It's just like, oh. The music feels similar to like the first Alien. I thought that was cool. There's even parts where there's like complete silence or low humming when people are sneaking around and stuff. It kind of brings back that focus again. And then I remember during the final fight, actually, there's a part, and I didn't directly watch it because I didn't actually finish the movie today. I'm not going to. When Kay is fighting the like humanoid alien, I don't know what to call that thing, man. Or not Kay, I'm sorry, Rain. When she's fighting it, and yeah, I could just call it Kay's baby. Actually, that's exactly what it is. And she ends up outside the ship, and she's like on a wire, and then there's no music, and it's like completely silent, but like the kind of silence where it's like, you know, in space they can't hear you. I know the tagline for the original movie is something like, in space no one can hear you scream or whatever. And that, I thought that was also really nice, like sound direction wise, felt realistic. Anyway, oh, one of my favorite shots, I'm skipping through a lot of my notes, by the way, because it's like things I've already read or whatever. One of my favorite shots in the movie, which is, I'm glad I get to talk about it and I rewatched it, is Rain. She gets pissed at Andy when Kay gets left behind to die for like the second time. And she says, how could you do that? And he says, what, leave someone behind? But he looks directly at the camera. Well, also he's looking at Rain. He's looking at Rain, but like she's not in the shot. It's just Andy, so it just looks like he's looking at the camera. And it's kind of nice that like once he gets the module and stuff, and like he has like the other personality, he starts saying what his like true feelings actually are, and I'm like, good for him for finally being able to speak out. I mean, he does mention it like almost immediately to Rain of like, yeah, I feel like I'm a burden and I finally can help you. You don't have to treat me like a child. And here he's saying about the thing about being left behind, because it did bother me when I was originally watching the movie when he's like, no, it's fine, guys, we gotta do what's best for Rain, but you can tell he like really wanted to go. Not like he was pretending it was fine, but more so it's like probably like he's trying to follow his prime directive like so hard that, you know. And then here he's just like with that comment, it's like, yeah, no, he really was hurt by like being left behind. It gave me the same feeling gonna be a Portal 2 spoiler here. In Portal 2, like, you have the thing at the beginning where Wheatley asks you to catch him and you can't. Like, the game literally doesn't let you, so he thinks like, oh, you weren't trying to catch him on purpose. And then the game like continues from there, and then in the final boss fight, one of his lines was something of like, oh, and another thing, you didn't catch me, you didn't even kind of try, and just have that callback to something from way back in the beginning, and how despite everything in the plot, that was like still something that bothers him, and you just feel like really bad about it, or at least I did, because he was a character I liked. It gave me the same vibe as that, and that's probably why it like clicked for me of like, oh, he's upset about this thing. What else? And then there's a part where Rook and Andy are explaining about the plan of what is actually going on the ship, and hearing Andy say how the colonies are dying and stuff, and like humans are not meant for space travel, feels kind of sad, knowing like Aliens is the next movie where like everyone but Newt dies at that colony, and then Newt ends up dying like later, and it's like, oh. And then Rook starts talking about, he says that perfect organism line, and at first I thought he was talking about I'd assumed like, oh, he's gonna start talking about the xenomorphs or whatever, because mostly androids think like the xenomorphs are perfect in that line about them being perfect and stuff, but the line actually ends up being the perfect organism. That's how we should refer to human beings. Like, I thought because he seems to be, he literally looks the same to Ash, I thought they were gonna have like the same mentality of like wanting the xenomorphs to survive and stuff, but then instead, or even I thought he was gonna have like David's view of being disgusted with humanity, but it's actually that he wants to make humanity stronger by combining them with this like, oh, I bioengineered the xenomorphs or whatever, and I made these little face hugger dude, and then ended up with this like liquid, and this liquid is, he even literally calls it the Prometheus fire, the gift to humanity, and that humanity needed an upgrade, and it's supposed to be to like change their metabolism or something to help them survive more. And then I was looking at the liquid, and which is kind of nice how this movie's made after like Prometheus and Covenant, where I'm like, wait a minute, that's the freaking black goo. I know that liquid anywhere. And it's interesting how he even specifically says like, oh, it's the thing Mr. Whalen died searching for, and after watching Prometheus, I'm like, oh, I finally get what that line means, because that was the whole plot line of Prometheus, where he wanted to find something to help like cheat death and stuff. And it's like, there's a mouse that we see gets tested on, not like as the plot is happening, but you know, why is it not letting me scroll through my notes? That's gonna drive me nuts. Why? We see a mouse that gets tested, and I thought it sounded like a pretty good plan. Like, for once, someone wants to help humanity and like make them strong. I mean, I know combining people because of the fourth movie with xenomorph DNA is like a very bad idea because of all those like weird Ripley clones or something, but like on paper it at least sounds good, and like with good intentions. I mean, I don't think the black goo existed by the fourth movie though, where it was like they were directly combining her with like, I think, other xenomorph stuff, and it's like, it sounded like a good plan, except they hadn't seen the mouse. We see the mouse though, and it ends up all like kind of fucked up. And then we get to see guns, and it's the guns the Marines use in Aliens, but I think is it like newer models, or is it like prototypes though? Because it has that like automatic aiming. I know this movie came after like Aliens, like when it was made and stuff. But the part when Tyler's teaching Rain how to shoot reminded me like Hicks teaching Ripley, which is kind of nice. And then there's nope, I'm still reading. Tyler getting sacrificed was kind of sad. Or specifically, he sacrificed himself to save Rain and Kay. I thought, like, he's such a good guy. He seemed like he's, like, smart, you know, and not doing anything stupid against the xenomorphs. And then he sees it coming and he gets in the way and then gets directly impaled by the tail. And I was like, dang, I thought he was going to survive. Especially because he was kind of, like, Rain's main ally for, like, the second half of the movie. Because at that point, it's like she feels like she doesn't really know who Andy is anymore and stuff, because he's basically a different person. And then I'm glad the movie remembered about, like, xenomorphs not caring about synthetics, because of the part where Andy's, like, broken on the floor again, and the xenomorph is literally, like, right over him, but it doesn't do anything. It just leaves, and then he's just stuck on the floor. Oh, that reminded me. I looked up. Okay, these reviews, you know, are being put in August, and I think in August the Alien Earth series is coming out. Finally watched the trailer and was looking into things with that, so I'm just giving the heads up that, like, that's gonna come out, but my review for it is gonna come out after, like, all of these Alien reviews, because I'm pre-recording all these. Bit of a time crunch, don't have a choice. I didn't know it was a TV series, and what I also am kind of confused about, hopefully it'll make more sense in the show, because, like, they do this thing where, like, all the main characters are supposed to be synthetics or something, but which is kind of an interest. I feel like, would they just be immune to the xenomorphs? That's one of the things. But they also have this thing where, like, humans can have their brain transferred into synthetics, which feels like a whole can of worms opening there. So I'm wondering what that's gonna be like. If it's like, do they actually get transferred? Does the human body die and then the consciousness is just in the synthetic forever? Or maybe the synthetic thinks that it's the person and the person's not even in there. But I'm like, how are you gonna get away from that unless they're, like, changing that rule of, like, you know, the xenomorphs track, like, body heat and stuff, and they don't care about the synthetics. I mean, I'm assuming also because, you know, they can't implant anything in there and stuff. I don't think a xenomorph could grow inside. That would be kind of cool, but I'm curious about that. I just wanted to bring that up because that kind of was something from my notes. And then a really strong character moment for Rain is when she sees Andy alone and broken on the monitor, and there's even, like, sad music playing when that happens, but, like, not in a cringe way. I know I laughed at that, but it's actually really nice. And then she decides to go back to save him, and he's in, like, one of those weird xenomorph tunnels where they have all the corpses and stuff. They're, like, nest area or whatever. And she goes back for him, even though her and Kay are, like, safe in the elevator at that point. Tyler, like, just sacrificed his life for him. And normally this would be the kind of thing, like, if I had felt the relationship wasn't strong enough or whatever, and I'm like, really? You're gonna risk your life to go back and save someone? But it's like, this is her brother at the end of the day and stuff, even though his personality is different and stuff. Though I am glad she lets Kay leave and take the elevator instead of, like, dragging Kay along or whatever. Because it's, like, her choice to go rescue Andy, you know? At that point, Kay's not doing so great medically. And then I noticed, and I hadn't noticed it the other times, maybe it was, like, a lighting thing, I don't know, where, like, they have a close-up of Andy on the floor, and it almost looks like he has a tear in the eye. I don't remember if the androids could, like, cry water. Like, I know they at least bleed the, like, white liquid stuff. And I mentioned with Ash, I thought there was a point where he looked like he was sweating the stuff, but kind of looked like Andy had something in his eye. I mean, he looked scared. He's kind of just stuck on the floor and helpless and stuff. It's like Rain realizes, like, she can't leave him behind again and stuff. Like, besides, like, Andy was helping her the whole time to survive and stuff, it's like she's willing to stay there and die with him and lets, like, Kay take the ship home. Kay sadly does not get to go home, but, you know, it's a nice moment. And then he doesn't want her to take the module from him. Like, he blocks it with his hand, even though she's tries to convince him at that point. I mean, at that point he isn't like even able to talk or anything, but he probably still has the like company mentality where she's like, hey, I'll fix you and it's fine if you let me do this. But it's nice that, like, I think at that point when he's sort of broken again, I was wondering if he sort of had some of his old personality back, because once she admits, like, oh, it's not only like not in the company interest to let you die, but also not in mine, he like looks at her and then lets her do it. But it's probably gonna suck for Andy. Like, that's gotta be a sacrifice for him of like, yeah, he gets his old personality back and stuff, which I don't know if he wanted to be himself again. I mean, when he does get rebooted again, she puts it in, he's like, oh, Rain, and then he apologizes immediately for everything he did, which is nice. But you know, he's gonna lose like the motor functions of like his hands and stuff, and he'll probably believe he's a burden to Rain again, so it's just like, oh. But he does kind of end up more badass. He has like one really cool scene I want to talk about, so like that helps. And then Rook leaves them to freaking die, and he has the, that's the other thing actually, wait, no, shit, I should have watched the end of the movie, because I was going to say, because Rook wants to not help them because he wants the compound to be safe, but, like, I wonder if that's going to be relevant later, because, he mentioned something about, like, contacting someone from the company to, like, go and all that, and like the whole thing was like Andy was gonna take the black goo and have it sent to the company or something, but then Rain ends up with the black goo at the end, which she's got the black goo. I wonder what's gonna happen with that. And Kay's corpse, I think, is there and it's like infected or whatever. But I'm like, what's gonna happen to the compound? Like, I don't actually remember if the Romulus ship got blown up at the end or not. And then I realized the only reason that Rook offers to fly Kay home, because I was wondering about that the first time I watched, I was like, why is he suddenly helping her? It's because he probably knows what she has inside of her, and she's got the black goo at that point. So that's like the only thing they ever care about with this company is like profit. And then there's a part where Rain, she's sitting with Andy on the floor, and they're holding hands, and she thinks she's going to die, and she's like scared, you know, the xenomorphs are coming, and she asks him for a joke. And I like that that's the thing that gives her the idea to save the day, to mess with the gravity, and she has every punchline memorized, and it was funny whenever she'll say it at the same time as Andy. But the part when she turns off the gravity and shoots all the xenomorphs and then has to like fly through all their blood, I thought that was really well done visually, but it was also like another one of my favorite parts of the movie. Like, you can really feel the tension of knowing like, oh, if they manage to hit the acid, they're going to die. Like, it gets pretty close to them a couple times. Like, that's gonna be tense, because we've seen a bunch of times at this point of like, at least I had, of like, what happens if even a little acid, it's freaking acid, come on. And then even though Rain has to do the final fight by herself at the end against the baby, it's nice that she has Andy. Like, finally the final girl has like someone to help at least fight back to the ship and everything. Actually, I don't remember with aliens. No, I don't think Hicks was with her to rescue Newt. See, that's what's gonna be weird with my aliens review. I don't really remember some of the details, so I'm still debating if I want to watch or not. And then the camera, there's a part where Rain and Andy, they're trying to get back to the ship, and they're climbing this ladder, and then Rain is gonna get crushed by an elevator. I don't completely have a fear of heights, but like, I feel like that activates every once in a while when I see it in like a movie, because it's like she looks down, the camera's there, it's not like close up on her or anything, and it's just like, whoa, heights. And it's kind of funny that like she falls after the elevator comes down because Andy can't hold it anymore, and she would have fell to her death if there's like a xenomorph that's also just kind of hanging out down there, and it actually catches her with the tail, so it unintentionally saves her life. And then one of the coolest parts of the movie is Andy notices like Rain's gun, just like it's stuck somewhere, and then he falls down off the ladder or like jumps off of it or something. So he's falling and he has the gun and he lands directly on the xenomorph and has his foot like on its head, which is pretty cool, like claiming it as a trophy. And he shoots it and he says the bitch line, and it's like, yeah, he gets his cool moment, you know. But it doesn't hit as hard as it does with Ripley, because Ripley says it and she's pissed and she's like, get away from her, you bitch, you know. And then Andy still speaks very like, I mean, he sounds monotone like pretty much the whole movie. And the thing is, there's a pause. I sort of get why they do it, to try to make it kind of cool. Like, he said, get away from her, and then shoots it, and then he's like, you bitch. But like, it doesn't hit as hard. Maybe if it was like the full line is one sentence and then shooting it, maybe that would have worked better. Or maybe just because it's lacking the enthusiasm of it being like a kick-ass line. I don't know. I was reading about it, and like some people were like, oh, that was kind of weird to have as a callback. I mean, it's like one of Andy's only like cool moments in the film. And it's kind of nice the way he like goes down and like shoots this thing. So I could sort of see it working. I don't know, as long as they didn't have too many like direct lines like that just being like the center focus. I mean, there are others, of course, as I've mentioned, but I don't know, I don't mind personally. And it's interesting that instead of having a xenomorph sneak on board, which is like 90% of the time what usually happens, the real monster comes from inside Kay. And the thing is, with the baby, it's like, okay, we have sort of done that before with like the fourth movie where Ripley has the humanoid baby thing, but it's like that one, at least it kind of just mostly looked like it had like a humanoid skull. It didn't really look like scary to me. It just kind of looked pathetic and sad. And even the way it dies is pathetic and sad, where it literally gets like shot out of a window, but like very slowly, and its skin starts coming off. And it's more you're just like, oh, put this thing out of its misery, you know? And it like chitters in a weird way where it's almost like it almost feels like a cute little animal that doesn't know what's going on, even though it's not like cute or anything. Like the humanoid skull thing is weird, but it's like, it's not that bad. But like the baby thing and this one is like, oh, and that's why I didn't want to finish the movie. Because it is like and again, no offense to the dude, I feel bad making fun of the height or the proportions of this like creature, because it's not like a CGI thing. It's like a guy that is actually that tall, and I'm assuming those are his proportions, so I'm like not trying to shit on his appearance, but like as a creature that's chasing them around that looks like basically like a naked human with like kind of dead looking eyes, and like if a person was stretched out like way too much and just chasing you around in like a horror format. And I get that's the point, it's just like like what was I gonna say? Never mind, I don't know what I was gonna say. This so I'm sorry I don't have like commentary for the end of this movie. I don't know. My plan was to play Deltarune after this, and I don't know if I'll have time because I've been yapping for an hour, so I'm gonna wrap this up. This movie's a 10 out of 10, peak, just like the original. In terms of like personal score wise for me, I'm not giving a number review to anything else though. I'm gonna compare it. Originally, I didn't know how I felt of like which one do I like better, and it doesn't matter. I could just like both and it's fine, but I want to just compare them because this is, in terms of the movie, like the closest I've felt that's like a similar vibe to the original. I mean, I've heard some people describe it as like it's a Gen Z version of Alien 1, but you know what? I don't mind. I enjoyed it. It's not like it was like a direct remake. They tried to at least do some things a bit different, you know, with like the characters and stuff and like the monster at the end. So like I'm fine with it. And honestly, from having watched like the other ones and going to Covenant and looping my way around, this kind of felt nice to go to more of like a direct return to form after like, you know, in terms of the newer movies with like Prometheus, where there was no alien, and then with Covenant people were being killed like way too fast, and I didn't feel like any tension in the horror aspect. I felt like that was like the B plot of that movie. So then to have Alien and then to have this and have it be like, okay, they're being hunted down, and it like feels kind of scary this time. Because like with Aliens, it's like then it just becomes like an action movie. It doesn't really feel like the horror. And then 3 is like not really scary, and then I don't know what my thoughts on 4 are, to be honest. I gotta rewatch it. That one's also like another one that's like sort of close-ish of like trying to mimic that like claustrophobia. It's gonna get you. Then again, Predator also. Oh, I'm sorry, before I wrap this up with my final thoughts, I want to say I do want to give the Predator series another shot. I mean, my mom already wanted to watch like the second one from me, the one that like takes place in LA or something, and I was Googling them, and it does sound like hold up, well, there's a new one coming out called Predator Badlands. I'm curious about it because one of the characters people are saying is just straight up a like Weyland-Yutani android, and I'm like, is this gonna be like really closely connected to aliens? But I don't know when that's coming out. It's like, actually it's supposed to be in November. We got time. But in terms of Predator movies, there is wait, I got this. I gotta check it out. There's like outside of the crossover ones, it looks like there's like 5 live action ones and then 1 animated one, and I've already seen the original, so I got like 4 movies to go. Yeah, that's interesting. It goes from like 1990 to 2010 and then 2018. Like they really took a long gap with that one. But yeah, and then there's the crossover ones, which is what I was originally planning on watching. Like, it seems like the series are like way more intertwined than I thought in terms of like lore and characters and whatever, and not just like the crossover movies. And I'm like, okay, I gotta be waiting like 2 months for the new Alien TV series anyway, and we're getting a new Predator movie in November, so it's like, I might as well just go through Predator. I just don't know when I'll have time because I'm going to be out of town like the entirety of July, and then I'm watching Predator movies with my mom. I like can't watch them without her. Anyway, comparison time. The Xenomorph felt more scary to me in the original. I mean, I want to say almost like I don't know who I like better as protagonist, honestly, of like between Ripley and Rain. They feel kind of similar enough of being like, I mean, I know there's usually the whole thing of like the final girl being like someone who does not want to be there and is kind of one of the only smart ones and goes through some really like horrific stuff. I mean, I feel like I can't make the comparison with like Elizabeth Shaw because like she wanted to investigate about stuff and there's no alien, and then I kind of already forgot about Daniels from Covenant, if I'm honest, a little bit. And she doesn't really feel as much like the main character. And I mean, Ripley, you do kind of get to know her more of being there in like 3 movies and stuff, but like with Rain, I feel like Ripley does get kind of with the other alien, not technically she's like in Floor. Are we counting the clone with that in terms of like Ripley character development? But she gets more character development because like with the first one, you know, it's like you don't know she's gonna be like the main character anyway unless you see in the movie, because she's kind of not, and she kind of just ends up being the last one left and stuff, and is more so like trying to survive. But then Rain did get more like character development and stuff, and her relationship with Andy and everything, and wanting to go to this planet really bad and stuff. So I don't know. The lighting and the vibes I liked better, or like the atmosphere in the original Alien, because I feel like that helped with the tension. With Romulus, I liked the characters more because like they all know each other and you don't want them it makes it harder watching their reactions to like losing people and stuff, and I felt like they were more memorable to me than like the original cast in the first Alien movie. I mean, they're cool, but like I can't even name all of them. I mean, I know I'm like that with a lot of things, but I don't know, I only remember like a couple of them, which is fine, you know. They're supposed to be just like normal working people that end up in this like shitty situation and stuff. I kind of do feel a little bad that I can't really remember them that well. And then it's funny because like then as the movies go on, I remember the cast like in terms of like the crew on the ship like even less actually. Like I don't remember like almost a single prisoner in the third movie because none of them felt like they were really developed or anything, except for like a couple of them. At least to be fair, at least in Aliens, you know, with the Marines. I remember the Marines. They're cool. I wouldn't mind rewatching Aliens. I feel like out of everyone in this movie, Andy is like the standout, like acting wise and everything, of basically like morphing into a different person halfway through. Like he's very like just likable where you root for him, and I'm glad. You know, I think he's like one of the only androids that actually, I don't think it happened with Cal either. It isn't like decapitated or cut in half or anything. I think those like the only two that got like a happy ending. I mean, I don't really know what happened with David, but like he's the villain, so I'm not counting that as a happy ending. I'm counting that as a bad ending actually. But yeah, I feel like the original Alien has like better horror and atmosphere, even though Romulus has like a scarier fight because it's actually like a fight and everything. And then I liked the characters and story of Romulus more, and then it's easier for me to like rewatch and pay attention to. Like this was my third time watching, and I wasn't like scrolling on my phone or anything. I was just like committed. I mean, I was enjoying when I was watching the first Alien as well, and I was skipping around with that one more in terms of like watching for this review and stuff. So like I think they're pretty much like practically tied in my head, but I think I like Romulus like just a teeny bit more, which I think was sort of how I felt when I originally watched it. But like when I was watching Romulus the first time, it's like it had been like a couple years since I'd seen the first three Alien movies, so like they weren't fresh in my head or anything. Okay, so that's my Alien Romulus review, and I am saving all these reviews on my hard drive in case I lose the channel again. Gotta put up the Alien reviews again. I'm not making these reviews a third time. I don't want to keep I love this movie, but I don't want to keep watching it just to do like YouTube reviews again. But yeah, it's cool. You know, that's at least the thing that's working out is like, since I'm looping back with the series again, I feel like even though I'd watched the first three Aliens and like sort of out of the old ones, like the only one that was new for me was Resurrection, because I originally thought there was like 4 anyway. You know, it worked like fine, but I feel like ever since watching Prometheus and Covenant, and where I'm like actually trying to pay attention to the lore this time, which wasn't even like my original plan, I think that has just gotten me like so much more invested, where I keep just noticing things or whatever, and I'm like slowly connecting the dots of things as I keep rewatching these. So that's what's made it fun this time around. But yeah, that's my thoughts on it. It was pretty good. I like Aliens. I don't know if I'll rewatch it again. I don't like Alien 3, and I think I liked the fourth. I don't know. I think the thing that was hard for me with Resurrection was that it's like the Ripley clone. I'm glad there's some version of Ripley that gets like a happy ending and stuff. So the original one just suffered through like 3 movies. But the fact that it was Ripley, but it wasn't Ripley, or at least it wasn't ours that we had like ventured with and stuff, I don't know, it felt kind of weird for me. I don't know how I feel about it. Alright, so next review is hopefully going to be Aliens. I could just do that. I don't think I'm going to rewatch the movie. Or maybe I'll skim around with it. I don't know. Otherwise I'm going to have like no commentary for it. But I will not be rewatching Alien 3. Try to do that before I leave on my trip. And yeah, and then, you know, at some point you'll get Prometheus reviews. When I get around to watching Alien Earth, I'm excited for that. I'm very curious how it's gonna work, if like every character is a synthetic. Are the xenomorphs gonna actually fight them? We'll see. All right, bye bye.